I've tried to make this video about 5 times now. Right now, I'm doing the Grime MCs tier list. I've got 52 MCs, pioneers in the grime scene. And what we're going to do is we're going to rank them in 5 tiers from S to D, with S being the best, the elite, the legends, and with D being not so good, or not the best, should I say. It's no shade on anybody, it's just more a thing of who influenced the grime scene more at the time, as opposed to who's actually good and who's not good. It's more about who influenced the grime scene more, and my subjective opinion on who I preferred to listen to back in the day when I listened to a lot of grime. So we're going to go straight up into it now, and that's what that is, yeah? We're going to start off with Asher D, yeah? So Asher D, also known as Ashley Walters, started off in the grime crew called So Solid Crew, and one of their main tracks, probably their biggest track, was 21 Seconds. They had 21 Seconds, They Don't Know About Us. I think it was called They Don't Know About Us. They had a tune called Rap This, I like that a lot. They had Broken Silence. They had a few tunes. They were ringing off back in the early 2000s. I'd say about 2000, 2001, maybe 2002. They were the guys, bro. They were the best. They were the biggest and best. If you want to call them a grime crew, they're probably more of a garage crew than anything. So garage predated grime, and it kind of went from garage to grime. And they were the heavyweight kings of garage. So if you want to put it that way, you obviously had Mega Man, who was like the front man of the crew. Then you had guys like Asher D, Harvey, Romeo, a couple men like that who were kind of the faces of the crew. I saw Asher D more as the grimiest guy in the crew. And what I mean by that is, Asher D had more of a grime style than the rest of the guys. Some of the guys like Romeo and Harvey, you could tell that they were spitting in like garage flows as opposed to grime flows, whereas Asher D, it was still a garage flow, but you could see the evolution to grime, you know, in the way that he made his music, or the way that usually what would happen is there'd be a track and every guy would have 16 bars, like a 16-bar verse on like maybe a 3-4 minute track, you know. So you could have like eight or so guys. I'm just pulling numbers out of the air really, but you had more guys than average, or more people than average on their tracks because of the way it was set up. So anyway, Asher D, he went on to, I think the transition from Asher D, which was his kind of music name, or his music alias, the transition went from Asher D to Ashley Walters when he started doing acting. So he went off to do, I think Bullet Boy was one of the first ones he did. Then he was in Get Rich or Die Trying, which is a big look. That was 50 Cent's film, obviously like the semi loosely related film based on his life kind of thing. And then he went off to do, obviously, Top Boy. He did a few things, but the next big thing I'd say was Top Boy. We all know about Top Boy, and that ran for however many seasons now. Is it 4 seasons, 5 seasons? And that obviously ended, I think, last year, if I'm not mistaken. So based on the music alone, I have to give Asher D credit, because he was there right at the beginning, albeit it was just when it was changing from garage to grime, but he's still one of the pioneers. And then what he went on to do in his acting career, I have to put him in S tier. Simple as that. Do you know what I mean? I have to put him in S tier. So we've got Asher D in S tier. Next up, we've got Bearman. Anybody knows about Bearman, yeah? Bearman didn't have the most longevity in the game, but back in the Channel U days, anybody knows about Channel U. A lot of the biggest MCs that you know right now, or maybe not right now, but of the past 15 years, originated on Channel U because they had like a breakout tune on Channel U. Channel U was like the Link Up TV or Grime Daily of the early to mid 2000s. TV only. This was before we had social media, before we had mobile phones with the internet, well, we were starting to get that back then, but before we had social media, definitely just before YouTube, I would say, kind of in the MySpace days, maybe even a bit before that. It was a long time ago, early 2000s, early to mid 2000s. So back then, Bearman had a big tune I thought Bearman's flow was sick back then. The tune was called Drinking Beer. It's like a African uncle anthem. He also had a tune called, what was his other tune called? Brown Bear Picnic. The thing I like about Bearman was that his flow was, for back then, his flow was very advanced. He obviously had his crew, I think, what were they called? Don't want to butcher their name, but they could have been called Southside All Stars or something like that. From which produced another big grime MC called Lioness. She was really good, one of the best female grime MCs of that day, in my opinion. So, keeping it simple. For this reason, I'm gonna put Bearman. I'm gonna put him in C tier for the lack of longevity and, you know, lack of mainstream commercial success. But I liked what he was doing, and that's, I suppose, why he's even on this list, to be honest. So next, we've got Big H from Bloodline, which came from Meridian Crew, which was obviously the crew with like the guys like Skepta, JME, Big H, Paper Pabs, Dan, remember German Whip, who about Sharky Major maybe? I don't think Sharky Major, if I'm not mistaken. Who else? Paper Pabs. There's a few guys. President T. Now, Big H had a very unique flow, and he had a big clash with P Money later on in what I would say is his career. Lord of the Mic 6, I believe. Now, the only thing I'll put Big H in terms of his unique style, his unique flow, and his impact on that style of grime, I have to put him in B tier. The only reason I can't put him higher than that is because I don't think he had enough material. Now, next up, we got Bruiser. Now, everybody knows about Bruiser. He had like a legendary 1-2 bars. Well, that's about it, a legendary 1-2 bars. I'm sure them man were Aftershock Crew. Don't know whereabouts they were in London, but they were quite big Aftershock Crew at the time. The big producer there was Terror Danger. He's got a lot of good instrumentals that you will hear from back in the day. A lot of their, a lot of instrumentals that you might not know are Terror Danger basically. So they were all right. Aftershock Crew. Bruiser was probably the front man of that crew after, I suppose, Terror Danger, if you want to count him. And he did have that. He might have had a clash with. He might have clashed Ghetto at some point back in the day. But listen, I liked Bruiser. He had a very unique flow and a unique style. There's a few people on that list that have that similar talking / aggressive style that's slower than the average grime style. The only problem with him in regards to this list is not enough material. Like recently even yesterday on the radio, I heard something he did, but it's all like a lot of it's very underground, a lot of it's very late in the day, and a lot of it's not very not very well known in it. Not very mainstream or very commercial, maybe not commercial friendly. Not that matters to me. I'm just trying to say that not enough material. And for that reason, I'm going to have to put him at I think, I might put him, bear with me. I might have to put him in, yeah, I'll put him at B. Next up, Bugsy Malone. Bugsy Malone's done massive things for the Manchester scene, done massive things for, I suppose he's done well with brands as well. Kind of one of the most successful guys to come out of the Manchester scene. Great music, obviously great with the kind of the brand approach, and I would also say like he went on to do some acting as well. I think he might still be doing that. Does very well, and he's all round quite successful in his career. He's done very well, and he's probably quite influential for a lot of the young people trying to get into music in Manchester. So for that reason alone, I'm gonna put him up here. Quite simply because him and H are like the foremost, I would say, urban music acts to come out of Manchester in the past. Since probably people like Virus Syndicate and that, I would say. So next up we got Chipmunk. I'm going to go ahead and put Chipmunk in S tier as well. This is because Chipmunk beat out a lot of, or should I say Chipmunk came out the victor against a lot of opposition. And I'm not even talking about his kind of feud that he had with Bugsy Malone. I'm more referring to back in the days when Chipmunk was cutting his teeth coming up in the scene. There were a lot of guys that were around his age, his kind of style, from his neck of the woods, that could have been next up. because Wiley worked with a lot of these guys. I remember what there was like Wiley, Chipmunk, Little D, and Ice Kid back in the day, and I always remember seeing Ice Kid and thinking, this guy's cold. You know, the flow he had, the style of his lyrics, it was the kind of grime I want to hear. So the very dark, kind of edgy grime. And Chipmunk was more about versatility and having a lot of content and always being kind of ready, to be quite honest. You know, when it comes to laying down bars on tracks, bars on beats, especially in sets. Like, I'll talk about sets another time, but sets are an integral part of the grime scene. So that stemmed from the pirate radio scene, I suppose. And ultimately, Chipmunk came out the victor in, you know, they weren't all competitive or it wasn't always a rival thing. It was just more a case of only one person's going to be the best of all these people kind of thing. And I think Chipmunk won out on that. And he's had such a big influence. He still makes music now. I'm sure he had a commercial deal when he went US and all this and that. He's done big things. So put Chipmunk in S tier for the influential nature and the longevity and the material. So next I got Chronix. I like Chronix back in the day, but just not enough material now, I'd say. He had some good bars. Similar to like the way Bruiser had a few good bars, and I know Chronix has had some projects since, or you know, but maybe not enough in my opinion. And the early kind of exposure that he will have had, I feel like he probably didn't capitalize on that enough. And I would have liked to see more content and material from Chronix. But the early what he was doing with Slew Them at the very beginning, I did like that. But again, just for the sake of not having enough material, I have to put him in D tier. Crazy Titch is next. I'm going to put Crazy Titch in S tier. Simple as. Crazy Titch is the equivalent of, like, at one point it was either going to be Crazy Titch or Dizzy Rascal, who was the first big grime artist. Only problem is I think Crazy Titch ended up doing a hiatus. He had good tunes. He had like a crew and all this and that, and he was very influential at the time. The reason why he's in S tier is because if you ask anybody who Crazy Titch is, they're gonna know. And if you know anybody hears Crazy Titch's bars, they're gonna be, you know, they're gonna, like, if in a crowd kind of situation, they're gonna be repeating that. Like, he's kind of goated, even though he's not been about for a while. So, you know, if you don't know about Crazy Titch, go check I Can See You. That's the big whoa. If you don't know about Crazy Titch, go and check I Can See You. That's the big standout track I think that he's got. Albeit I listened to a lot of like the underground stuff back then, and there was a lot of other material that was floating about, and a lot of sets that were floating about. But for someone who's not heard the basic Crazy Titch stuff, go and check I Can See You. That's a big tune. Next up, we got DEE, straight up S tier. You know, it's your favorite MC's favorite MC, and with a flow that sounds like it's an instrument on the beat, with lyrics to match. You know, everybody reveres DEE in the scene, quite simply because he's one of the best MCs to ever live, I would say. Now, he's comparable to, like, for people who are watching in the US or whatever, it'd be comparable in our scene, at the grime scene specifically, not the UK rap scene, the grime scene. It'd be comparable in the grime scene to, like, the way Snoop Dogg is in the rap scene, or, you know, Snoop Dogg's Come Up, Death Row and all that gear. He's like that. Think of it like that. In terms of how his flow was so radical at the time and so unique and so effortless. It's literally, that's the comparison to make. So DEE, obviously he was in part of Dirty Stank with Footsie. Footsie is also a legendary grime producer. You know, the way that he can spit his bars, he can put them on drum and bass, put them on dubstep, put them on anything. And he's done the circuit as well. He's done, you know, he's been and performed at a lot of places. I've seen DEE perform live and all the rest of it. So yeah, DEE, S tier. Next up, we got Desperado. I'm gonna put Desperado in A tier. My reasoning for that is Desperado was on Lord of the Mics 1, I think, with the Younger Wolfpack. I believe he might not have been in Younger. So on Lord of the Mics 1, there's a clash between two grime crews. They're obviously crews of youngers, so I think one of them might be Younger Wolfpack or something like that. And another one might be, I can't remember who the others are. Desperado's in one of them two crews. I don't know which one it was, but this was when he was quite young, I believe. He's also on Lord of the Mics, I think Lord of the Mics 3, clashing. his clash rival. It's a good clash as well. And I always liked Desperado's flow back from when I heard him on Lord of the Mics 1. I heard him on a couple of freestyles and that on YouTube back in the day. And I always liked Desperado's flow. It was something a bit different. So I'm going to put him up there. Next up, we got Devilman, aka DE Development. Yo, the reason it makes me laugh is because he's just got them funny tunes, them funny bars. If you've never heard Devilman, straight away we're putting him in S tier just for how influential he is in the, you know, with the Birmingham grime scene, and I suppose further in the Birmingham grime scene, at least to some extent. But if you've never heard Devilman, you wanna listen to Lord of the Mics 2, Skepta v Devilman. Now that there is a madness, bro. Like if you listen to that, bro, it's one of the best Lord of the Mics clashes that there is. Now, what I like about Devilman is he has an effort, he has a part of it. It's very unique flow style and a unique theme in terms of what his lyrics are, the kind of lyrics he uses. It's very dark themes, which I like. In the early days, I used to think his flow was a piss take. I used to think he was just taking the piss. Who's this guy? Just say it. But no, over time, I came to appreciate what Devilman, you know, what his style was all about. And I've listened to that clash, Skepta v Devilman, probably about 100 times, maybe more. I've listened to that clash, Skepta v Devilman, probably 100 times, maybe more. I've got it on MP3 and everything, so I've just listened to it like I've had it in the car, I've had it in my, you know, headphones, but it's just a funny clash to listen to. It makes me piss myself every time. And as over time, I've come to realise what Devilman's doing when he's spitting his bars. It's kind of like, part of it is that he's good with improvisation, part of it is that he's saying wild stuff, part of it is that he's got a very unique flow that catches you off guard. But you know, influential in the Birmingham scene, so I'm going to put him up there. Next up, we've got Devilman. I'm going to put Devilman in A tier straight up. I don't know if Devlin got to the levels of commercial success that I thought he was going to get to. That's not to say he hasn't done well. He's done really well for himself, but I think that maybe he's packed it in and does other things more than Grime. Maybe outgrew Grime at some point. But Devlin, one of the coldest Grime MCs ever. Like, simple as that. Like, he had a great flow with lyrics to match. He was very well rounded, part of the movement, part of the Dog and Them Alliance as well. I think they're man from like Essex way. Yeah, Devlin's cold. Next up, we've got Discarda. I'm putting Discarda in A tier. Don't know how anyone feels about that, and obviously it's my subjective opinion. But in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are, and maybe we can come back at a later date and update this tier list. But Discarda for me is absolutely cold. Discarda's one of my favourite MCs, I'll tell you straight. So Discarda's got one of them. It's like pub bants bars, bro. It's just taking the piss. Like if you watch Lord of the Mics Part 4, I think he clashed JK, and I thought that's one of my favourite clashes up there with Skepta and Devilman for me. I like the way that he uses like silence and pauses within his the way he constructs his lyrics to comedic and dramatic effect. And I like the kind of style and tone of his lyrics. It's just cold. He's cold. I like Discarda, so I'm putting Discarda in 80. Next up, Dizzy Rascal. Can we say about Dizzy Rascal? The original, basically the most successful MC in Grime's history, and the foremost, most prominent Grime MC in Grime's history. I'm gonna put him up here. Dizzy Rascal's obviously living legend. Also a good producer, by the way. He's got some of those legendary beats that you hear on sets like Ho and Strings Ho. Dizzy Rascal, straight legend. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think there's a whole thing of he was so early, he was so big in the grime scene, so young and so early that he was really trailblazing. After he stopped working with Wiley, he kind of went on to like the commercial scene. Was kind of out of the underground grime scene for a while until the grime scene caught up, and then But Dizzy Rascal, Boy in the Corner, basically a classic grime album. Next up, we've got Dot Rotten. I'm putting Dot Rotten in S tier just because of the quality of him as a all-rounder in terms of he's an excellent producer and an excellent MC. I personally think, as well as Discarda, Dot Rotten is one of my favourite grime MCs to listen to. I think he's probably the most technically gifted or technically skilled MCs that there is. Like, I think he's heavily underrated in terms of his bars. And then maybe his productions are not as underrated, but his bars definitely are underrated in my opinion. I think he's like one of the best grime MCs, like as a barer that there is. Like with the flow. It's like he has all the flow of like maybe nearly D-double, and then all the lyrics of anybody else. It's like he's matching anybody on lyrics and flow and timing. Like they can do the pauses to dramatic effect, can jump into bars 2-3 bars in and not have to spit the bar from the start. Like, yo, the guy's technical, guy's sick. What he is very technical. I think he produced for Birdman as well, which is a big deal. Produced a track on one of Birdman's maybe albums or so. Putting Dot Rotten there, bro. Next up, we've got Criminal, putting Criminal in A tier. Criminal is originally part of the movement. I like Criminal, but the only thing is, and I think he kind of was in rivalry with Chipmunk at one point, at least on a music level. And I think kind of Chipmunk somewhat came out on top on that, just on the music level. I used to like Criminal a lot, liked his flow, liked his style. The movement was one of the big things. He was alongside Devlin, a couple other man. Would like to see more from him though, to be honest. I don't know if those days are over, but you know, again, I put Little Nasty in A tier as well, because they kind of are similar but different. I think Little Nasty, in fact, you know what I'm going to do, just simply because I would like to see more, I would like to have seen more content from Criminal. I feel like he took a hiatus because I'm not seen or heard of him for about over a decade. And I've heard more from Lil Nasty, and they're very similar, so I'm going to put Lil Nasty in A and Criminal in B. Again, like Lil Nasty had a clash with Maxter on maybe Lord of the Mics 4 or something. Sick clash. So that's that. Dogzilla, we're going to put Dogzilla in B. Dogzilla is like kind of the forerunner to Devlin. So then Dogzilla Alliance man from up Essex way, I believe. Similar to Devilman, actually. Very, very similar to Devil. Like a cross between Devilman and Discarder in terms of the way he MCs. The best way to describe him is like a cross between Discarder and Devilman. You know, simple as that, but he's sick. Van Gogh, I'm going to put him in C. Van Gogh had one of the most legendary sessions on any grime pirate radio set of all time, where he had like about 6 reloads in a row. Again, I've got that. Again, that's something I listen to this day. The only thing is, I haven't seen any material since or before. I'm not checking for material, but the way I look at it, if the material ain't finding its way to me, then do you know what I mean? That's kind of how it is. Like, my ears are close enough to the grime scene in terms of to find the music, that the music should find its way to me if it's there. I just haven't seen it. But quite simply for that reload alone is why it's on this list. That session on the pirate was enough to be on the list. And I would have liked to put him higher up because that session is one of the best I've heard from anybody, but it's just the material. Now next, Flirty D. I'm going to have to put Flirty D in A. I can't put Flirty D in S because of the material. But Flirty D is very similar to D-double-E. The only thing is D-double-E is more lyrical. I'd say D-double-E has better lyrics. Flirty D has been accused of just making noises on the tune. But if you see it for what it is, he uses his voice as another instrument. And it's very similar to the way D-double does it. Maybe he does it better than D-double actually, or does it more extensively per lyric than D-double-E does it. The only problem is the material. There are a few Flirty D tracks that I listen to, or freestyles like that. I'm sure he does Napalm freestyle and this and that, like SLK and all this. But listen, I like Flirty D. An A tier might be a bit generous, but because of his influence in the game, similarities to D-double, and him and D-double practically being the only two people that are of any prominence that have that style, is why I put him in A tier. Flowdan, legendary member of Roll Deep. Bit before my time in terms of the music that I favour and the styles I favour in grime, so I'm going to put him in C. Although Flowdan is a legendary MC, subjectively speaking, it's not really the style of grime I subscribe to. Same thing with Manga. Manga again. Manga's actually really cold lyrically, well, in terms of his flow. I don't really check too much for Manga to know about the ins and outs of his lyrics and his tracks and that, so maybe I'm doing him a disservice. And similar with Flowdan, maybe I'm doing him a disservice by putting him in C, but again, this is my subjective opinion. Next up, I'm gonna say Frisco. I'll put Frisco in. I can't really. He's a bit better than B. He's a bit, in my opinion, bit below A. But I'm gonna put him in A. Quite simply because I've listened to more, or more of his stuff has made its way for me to listen to. And he's obviously cold. Flow, lyrics. He's actually quite cold, and maybe I'm doing him a disservice by saying he should be in B, or he could be in B, because he's actually really cold. I think sometimes he might get overshadowed by the bigger players in B, Boy Better Know, which is what he's in. But nah, Frisco's cold, so actually he deserves his place in A tier. Ghetto gonna go S tier, to be honest with you. He had that clash with Nappa. He was in the shadows for a long time. He was seen as a Kano that had a bit more of a darker style than Kano. But in all fairness to Ghetto, he's got his own style. He's got his own very technical. He's very similar on a spitting lyrics level. He's very similar to Dot Rotten, and of course he was like probably the front man. Him and I believe Scorcher were like the frontmen of the Grime crew, the movement. And they were cold. Like to this day, I still listen to Fuck Radio volumes 1 to 4. Straight cold, bro. Like, you know, I'm sure they had a Christmas special. I might go listen to that in a bit because it is Christmas Eve after all. So, but yeah, no, Ghetto, formerly called Ghetto, later called Gets. He, I think he had Lord of the Mike's Part 1 clash with Nappa, who is here. Where's Nappa? Nappa is about. So I'm gonna have to just deal with Nappa right now. Is it here? There he is. I'm gonna put Nappa in D, you know, just simply because it is just that lyric, I'll crack your skull, and I like that lyric, and I liked him on Lord of the Mike's Part 1. It's not like it's just, how can I say it? They're like crude bars that work. They just hit, but they are rubbish bars in it, but they hit. It's like a worse version of Bruiser, but maybe with the same energy as Bruiser. So you're like, oh, this is cold, I'll crack your skull. But when it's over, you're not like, give me, I'll crack your skull again. In fact, now you might be. But what I mean is you're not checking for anything else. If he's not saying I'll crack your skull, then you're probably not checking for it. And that's not even a disrespect, because everyone on this list are people that I like, because there are more Grime MCs to this, even in the pioneers scale, you know? I think only, when I look at this list, maybe only Flow Down a Manga that I don't actively or haven't really actively listened to in the past. Both of them, I think they were in Roll Deep as well, I have to say that, just for anybody who's interested to know. But yeah, Nappa, he had that legendary clash with Ghetto. That was a sick clash. They were quite early on in their careers. I feel like Nappa left the scene. And that's no shade on him, maybe he went on to better things. But for him as a Grime MC back then, I have to put him in D. Ice Kid, I'm going to have to put Ice Kid in B. Like I was saying before, there was Ice Kid and there was Chipmunk working with Wiley at one point. And Ice Kid was like, I remember hearing Ice Kid and thinking, this kid is absolutely cold in terms of his flow and his lyrics. They were like very dark. It was like Dot Rotten a bit, you know. And I think maybe he did work with Dot Rotten for a second. That makes sense because it was that style. And I like that style. That's my favourite style of like the Grime to listen to. The only problem is, I'd happily be putting him in S tier if he had the content, the amount of content that Chipmunk had. Because I think I prefer Ice Kid's style. But like I say, the content is king and the content is what compels me to put him in B, or the lack thereof. Next we've got, I believe this is Jamaica. Again, I'm going to have to put Jamaica here. No disrespect to Jamaica, but again, it's not really the style of Grime that I used to listen to. Although, let me put some respect on Jamaica's name. Like, he was in Power, and Power is like basically the most goated Grime tune of all time, and will be the most goated Grime tune of all time. So it is what it is. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is enough to get on this tier list. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. And then it is a goated tune. Power, there is so Jamaica, I believe he was in More Fire Crew. More Fire Crew was Lethal Bizzle, aka from, later known as Lethal B's original crew. He had More Fire Crew. And I think he had Fire Camp. I don't know which one was which. They used them interchangeably. Maybe More Fire then became Fire Camp. I think it was something like that. And Jamaica was on there. He was on PAL along with guys like D-Double. D-Double was on PAL. There was a guy called Fuming on PAL. Who else was on PAL? Nappa was on PAL. Sorry, Nappa. Put respect on Nappa. No, sorry, Nappa. Nah. Some people's got to go in D, but The fact that I've just remembered that he was in PAL almost wants me to make me move you to C, but I can't do it, bro, because some people's got to go in D in it. But let it just be known that I'm putting the respect on your name because you was in PAL. So yeah, Jack, and it's not even part of the PAL because after a certain point in PAL, you just skip the tune. Anybody who knows about PAL, listens to PAL, knows what I'm saying. There's a point in the tune where you're just like, you're kind of done with it. Like back in the day, it used to get reloaded so much in the clubs, yeah, that it's like some people on PAL, nobody knows like that these people are actually on PAL because nobody ever listened to it past probably D double. For the most part, was it? I can't remember the order of it. It could be like past, maybe even past Fuming. No, Fuming, D double. No, it might be after Napa that it gets skipped. I'm not gonna lie to you. For the most part, I don't skip it because I'll be listening to Grime, but like in the clubs, it gets reloaded. It just gets wheeled back like about 5 times in the club. Them days. So then it never actually, when they play it in full, they never actually play it to the end. But anyway, Jamaica B's bit, I remember it, but it's big. If you ever watch Channel U, you know about it. It was even on MTV Base as well. And I don't know if Jamaica B was on Oi by More Fire Crew, but More Fire Crew were like doing a So Solid thing at the time. In fact, More Fire Crew kind of could be considered the first grime crew, maybe, because it was like, I'm going off memory. I was about them times, as in about listening to grime. So it was, how old would I have been? I'd have been about in like year 7, year 8, high school. I don't know what you call it in America, middle school or something. I don't know. High school in the UK. So it was So Solid Crew. They had like 21 seconds. They had a rule with like 21 seconds. They don't know about us. Rap this, broken silence, and then it was kind of like not the same. And then immediately after, you started hearing More Fire Crew Oi, which is a legendary tune, still legendary to this day. Legendary enough for Jamaica to be on here based on that if he was on that. Oi. And then after Oi, you had PAL. And PAL was like not just More Fire Crew. PAL had like a D-Double, Napa, maybe a couple other man. PAL got the grime scene shut down basically. This is how sick PAL was. It was such a big banger that the grime scene shut down. They stopped doing bookings, police rolling up to bookings. It's well documented. Section something notice. I can't remember the section. I don't really know. I'm not on grime MC. But you know, if you like look it up, you'll find the details. Police used to roll up to grime club or grime events before the event took place, and was like, "You're not having this event in it." Just simply because when PAL dropped and when they used to play PAL, the crowd would go so wild that they practically trashed the club. People would have fights. There might even be, let's just say, escalated levels of violence as a result of that because the tune was so wild. So yeah, after PAL, then who came after PAL then? Then you started hearing more Roll Deep, and I think maybe that's when Dizzy came out. Like after PAL, then it was Boy in the Corner time, and then it was, and this wasn't just Channel U as well. So everyone else's tracks on this who are out at that time, their tracks were on Channel U. That was like kind of any MC to a level could get on Channel U. And then after Channel U came Channel AK. This was on Sky TV in the UK, right? If anyone wondering what U and AKA mean. But then like MTV Base and to some degree MTV, which are the premier marquee music channels of the time, before YouTube, before TikTok and all of this, before internet on phones, before apps, before basically when man had internet in the house that would be like the thing would dial up off a mobile, off a landline phone, and the modem would be making noise, and you connected to the internet. Things taking about two days to download, like one track taking about a day to download, and that. So you remember them times? These are the times I'm talking about. There was MTV Base on Sky, and there was obviously MTV. MTV was a mix of all the MTV content, so you'd have like rock on there, you'd have new metal on there, you'd have rap on there. By rap I mean hip hop. And you'd have like pop on there, obviously, but MTV Base was dedicated to like urban music. So it would be urban American music, like rap, hip hop, and it would be every now and again. So for every 30 American tunes, there might be one tune UK urban, and that one tune would either be in order. It would be So Solid Crew. Then later, a few years later, it would be no. Then a few months later, it would be More Fire Crew Oi. Then it would be More Fire. Like I said, first it would be one of the So Solid Crew tunes that I already listed. Then it would be More Fire Crew Oi. Then it would be Lethal B Pal, because that was a Lethal B tune featuring a number of people outside of More Fire Crew and some inside More Fire Crew. Then maybe a year after that, it was Dizzy's run, and Dizzy had like a number of tunes on there. Dizzy had I Love You. He had his biggest tune was Fix Up Look Sharp, and that maybe even made it to the main MTV at times, which nobody else did really. And then he had I Love You. He had Fix Up Look Sharp, I Love You. He had Jezebel as well. What else did he have? Just a Rascal, which is all them tunes in my playlist now. Banging tunes. Just a Rascal's a banger, bro. Fix Up Look Sharp. I actually like that tune first. As in, I like that tune most back then, but I like that tune least now. Hold Your Mouth is probably my favourite tune. Then Just a Rascal. Then I Love You. I Love You is goated. I Love You is probably the Hood's favourite tune, maybe. But anyway, that's how it went. I don't even know how I got onto that, but that's how it went. So next, anyway, swiftly moving on. We got JK. Gonna put JK in A tier. A tier. I think JK still makes music. If he continues making music the next 5 years, it'll be an S tier. Simple as that. Like he had Invasion Alert crew, and then like from Birmingham. They were like the generation, or maybe 2 generations after the Devilman. / DE Development, Skepta, Lord of the Mics Part 2. I think JK was clashed, discarded. They had that legendary clash, Lord of the Mics Part 4. That was a good clash. Still listen to that to this day. I'm sure JK had a tune on Power, like one of his tunes made it to Power. I think it's the tune Too Fake, within the end of a Power episode, which is a big deal. So JK's had a lot of influence. Next up, we got Jammer. Where would the grime scene be without Jammer? Jammer is S tier, simple as that. I like Jammer as an MC. He had Merkle Man. He had a couple of other tunes. I like his freestyle. I think Jammer's cold, mate. Like, not a lot of people seem to rate Jammer as highly as I'd expect, but I rate Jammer highly in it, like as an actual MC. But Jammer's a legendary producer as well. I don't know if he's an official DJ. I'm sure he can DJ, but he's also member of Boy Better Know, and basically I think him and maybe some other people, the founder of Lord of the Mics. So that's from Lord of the Mics Part 1 to the Lord of the Mics Part whatever it's on now. Jammer's got some of my favourite instrumentals as well. And a lot of the grime scene took place in Jammer's basement, or on Jammer's watch, or at Jammer's event, or on behalf of Jammer. So Jammer brought a lot of guys through, gave a lot of guys exposure. Listen, without Jammer, there will be no grime scene. Like, we talk about people who are influential in the grime scene. I think Wiley's more influential as a figurehead, but I think Jammer's actually more influential in making the parts actually in grime move. You get me? Like, anyway, could call him the engine of grime. So next, I'm gonna say Jamie. Put Jamie in S tier. Serious, banging Channel U tune. When I say Channel U and Channel AK are interchangeable, because Channel U I think became Channel AK, but that was a bit later down the line. So AK was still playing some of the tunes on Channel U maybe a year, 2 years earlier kind of thing. So anyway, Jamie, part of Boy Better Know, along with Jammer, Skepta, and a few other guys. Legendary tune series. More known for being a businessman. Similar kind of influence to Jammer in terms of has put a lot of guys on, has made a lot of moves in the scene, has made a lot of business moves, has done a lot of firsts for grime. Like the first person in grime to do X, the first person in grime to do Y. And, was very influential in making BBK become the marquee grime crew in the scene. So Jamie's in and obviously I don't know if I said before, but a legendary producer as well. Got some sick beats, 92 bars of something, I can't remember. There's a while ago the actual names, but I can hear them in my head. Next up we've got Kano. Kano's definitely A tier. Kano, so I have to make it clear, guys, there's a few other guys that are going to be on here, but for the S tier, I'm going to try and put that in order. I'm not really going to do that for the rest of them. But yeah, Kano was, when Dizzy Rascal was big, it was like Dizzy Rascal was big and there was Crazy T, but Crazy T, I think, had a madness or whatever happened, he took a hiatus, so that took him out of the running. But there was Dizzy Rascal and there was Kano. Kano obviously had a legendary clash, Lord of the Mic Part 1, with Wiley, and that was kind of like, I don't want to call it a passing of the torch, but that was like, here's the new generation, you know. And Kano kind of revolutionized grime in a way that he showed that you didn't have to be like 100 miles an hour, you know, spitting hard, you know, you didn't have to do all that. Like, Kano had a very smooth, melodic style. Like, he was very versatile, but his preference seemed to be having a very smooth style, a very R&B friendly style at times. But he was very capable and very versatile. It was almost like rap over grime, is what I'm trying to say. So his first album, Home Sweet Home, is a goated album as well. I would personally say that from album's perspective, Boy in the Corner and Home Sweet Home are the two original grime classic albums, in my opinion. And Kano is seen to be like Ghetto is seen to be like a darker version of Kano in a way. I think they keep running the same crew, maybe Nasty crew. And so there's always that link there, you know, and that link is always made. So that's Kano. Next up, we've got Little D. I'm going to put Little D in. I'm going to put him in A tier. So this is like my opinion. I like Little D. Sometimes Little D is kind of like one of them MCs where, say you've got someone like Dot Rotten just splitting your head with some triple, quadruple entendres and multi-syllabic madness. You want Little D on there to kind of smooth it over, get you back to normality, because he has actually got cold lyrics. He's just not one of these guys that's always trying to be like, he's just like easy with it, and he's got like good one-liners within those lyrics. Part of the OGs, you know, along with guys like Gender, Dot Rotten at one point. Who else was in OGs? P Money, you know. And I think that he worked with Chipmunk and, remember when I said Chipmunk and Ice Kid at one point were working with Wiley? I think Lil D was in that kind of sector, but then somehow found his way into OGs. But anyway, Lil D's cold. Next up, we got Mr. Wong. I can't put Wong in A tier, even though Orchestra Bowling on its own should be A tier. But I'm gonna have to put Wong in B tier, you know. Gonna have to put Wong in B tier, you know. Orchestra Bowlers was legendary though. He's like a bit similar in a way, disregarding the content, like the theme of his lyrics. He's otherwise very similar to Devilman in the way that it kind of sounds disjointed sometimes when you're listening to it, but when you start to appreciate it for what it is, you're like, yo, that's cold, give me more Orchestra Bowlers, bro. Like, and that the beat as well for Orchestra Bowlers is sick. It kind of reminds me of Jammer's tunes. Like, Jammer's got like a tune called, like an instrumental called, I think, China Man. And that reminds me very much of like Mr. Wong's style of beat making, where he has Orchestra Bowlers, which is a goated tune. That was a Channel U banger. When I say goated tune, I mean on Channel U. Just not enough content, you know, bro. And actually for that, yeah, go on then. But if I'm doing that, you know, I have to put Fango. I can't start doing that. Do you know what? I have to put little Mr. Wong in, because there's not enough moments. Not enough moments. Again, it's the amount of content. So even though it's my subjective opinion, from an objective standpoint, I'm having to put him in C. But I liked Mr. Wong, and I would have liked to see more from him. But I'm gonna put any in A, because if it weren't for any, there'd be no OGs. Therefore, there'd be no OG Season Volume 1 mixtape. I'm gonna put P Money up there in A as well. P Money's got one of the coldest flows you'll ever hear in your life. I think P Money and Dot Rotten had a big fallout, and that makes me sad, really. Well, not really, I'm not that arsed, but it put to bed the legendary work that we had come on the back of OG Season Volume 1. I believe that's the best grime mixtape of all time. OG Season Volume 1 OGs. Had like Dot Rotten production, he was on a few tracks, and you had like OGs, you know, like guys like Gender, all these guys. I'm going to put them in, because OGs were cold. Where's Gender? Gender's there, innit? So, Gender's there, innit? Is he? Yeah. I'm going to put Gender in A as well. Gender got cold bars. I like Gender's style. It's like nice and easy, but then it can do, you know, it can be smooth and it can be it can be more grimy as well. And Any is like almost I see him almost as the forerunner of Gender, although maybe they came up at the same time. But if you go and watch like the Practice Hours 2 freestyles, I watch them a lot. On Practice Hours 1, Any and Gender have got cold freestyles on there. Part of it's what I'm basing it on. They may not have as much material as I would like, but their influence in the scene leads me to put all these three guys up here. I know P Money's got a lot of material, so I'm not talking about him. Rochi, I put Rochi in A because I do like Rochi's style. Like it's something very different. I put Trim. Where's Trim? Trim's here as well, so I put Trim in A because these two guys seem to have legendary styles and flows that have influenced younger MCs with, because you can see a lineage. Like there's certain MCs that have that flow that Trim had, and certain which is a very unique flow, very similar to like another guy I'm gonna put in here, President T. Like they're different, but they're similar in like the way it's more slower, and they use like pauses and silence and staggering bars to like dramatic effect and stuff like that. So similar, like Rochi's not really that same style, but it's more like, it might be a bit like Gets actually, Rochi. But the only things, because these guys are pioneers, like I'd say Rochi, Trim, and President T. President T did some stuff with some guys from Manchester as well, which is big. But yeah, they're somewhat similar. The only thing stopping them being on A is the amount of material. Scorcher, I'll put Scorcher in A, because Scorcher's cold-blooded. Scorcher, I missed the guy off. Terminator T, I would have had Terminator T up here as well, because I do like Terminator T, but Scorcher is cold. What I like about Scorcher, he obviously done some acting as well, and I think he was in Top Boy, maybe the first or second season. He was in The Intent, I think the first one, Intent 1. The only thing, well, there is no only thing. What I like about Scorcher is he very original. Like he's kept his same style, his same flow, his same way of doing things. Like if you were to go back and listen to, like there was some sets from back in the day, radio sets, with Scorcher on like Axe FM and that was, I think, their radio station where he's from must have been one of the marquee pirate radio stations there. Them sets were cold, bro. So I know he's done Logan Samba as well and all that and that, but I like Scorcher's style, so I'm gonna put Scorcher up there in A tier. Scratchy, for me, Scratchy's. Some people might say Scratchy's. Nah, wait, I have to think about this. Alright, so Scratchy was in Lord of the Mics Part 1 against Footsie. To be fair, that was light work. Footsie wasn't much of an MC back then. Footsy's more like, I think Footsie's one of the greatest producers in Grime. And I think he only really started to become a producer because he's in a Grime crew with DWE, and DWE is obviously this guy, one of the best Grime. Your favourite Grime MC is Grime MC, so naturally you're going to be like, alright, teach me how to spit bars. I think it was one of them. So before that time, or at the earliest part of that time, before he's probably really mastered the spitting, is when he faced up. And I'm saying this, but it actually was a cold clash. They actually had funny bars. Like the bars are funny. Like go and watch it. Footsie versus Scratchy versus Footsie. Footsie versus Scratchy. Lord of the Mics Part 1. Maybe Footsie should be on here as well, but I rate him. Yeah, Footsie probably should be on here. But put it this way: wherever Scratchy is where I put Footsie. So I'm gonna put Scratchy in 8 just because of that Lord of the Mics Part 1 clash mainly, and the influence of Roll Deep. And I think that Scratchy is an influence on guys like Discarda, because I think they must be from the same area. So it's all of that kind of gear. Shizzle, I'm gonna put Shizzle here. Shizzle had one banging tune, and I think it's got Napper on it with that hard crack your score bars as well. It's called Pull Up That. I think one of them's called Pull Up and one's called Pull Up That Forward Remix or something like that. That is a banging tune. Like one of my favourite Grime tunes, that Pull Up That Forward. Like I think one's produced by Dexplicit. I think whoever produced it, one's produced by Dexplicit. There's a remix and an original. Pull Up That. If you search for Shizzle, Pull Up That. So it's like Shizzle, Napper and Ribs. And they're all quite cold MCs. I think they must be, I don't know what, I think they're Aftershock. Aftershock? It's a cold tune, Well, I thought it was a cold tune then, and I still think it's a cold tune now. Better than a lot of what was on Channel U as well. And I remember thinking, yo, this is cold. And this was back when it came out, when it was on Channel U and all that. But my problem, the reason that's led me to put him in D, like with Napa, is just there was no follow-up. Apart from those two tunes, there's absolutely no follow-up that I've seen. You know, I'm sure he made music. Maybe some of it wasn't the same levels or whatever, but that was a banging tune. I would have liked to see more. And because I didn't see more, that was a bit of a disappointment, hence to why I've put him there. Socks, as an MC, you're going to have to put him S tier. Everyone would want to see him in S tier, so I'm going to put him S tier. And I think he's cold. I think the Cozzy clash was not a good look. He did do well on the so this was, he clashed Cozzy in Lord of the Mics Part 3. I think that was not a good look, but he did do well. Because like if you watch the clash, it's like they must come back some days later to refinish it for whatever reason. And the second part of it, he does a lot better. But I remember Socks from when like Flush Raw days. If anyone remembers Flush Raw, and then after that was like J. So I don't want to say I found Socks. I got onto like the music through his freestyles, and he had a few of them like on Grime blog and on Flush Raw media. One of them, I checked it before when I was doing this video, it was like on 1.7 million views, which is unprecedented for a Grime freestyle. Like a good amount of them views in me, but yeah, we had some. Socks is cold, isn't it? Socks is cold, you know. There's no two ways about it. You could like, in a way, he's like an Eminem. Like what Eminem is, aside from the because Eminem actually followed through with delivering albums upon albums of like sick content that was challenged the stereotypical norm. Like he had tunes like Role Model, he had tunes like you know, the stuff, everything he done with D12. Then he had tunes like obviously Real Slim Shady and stuff that's kind of comedic. Socks has that in him, and when you hear it from his freestyles as well, I listened to a freestyle he did just before where there was bare sound effects in it, but he was saying some, like he said cold stuff in it. It's stuff where you're like, yo, that's cold, the way he says it. So it's some of it's what he says and some of it's the way he says it, and he can tie that all into a very consistent, complex flow. It's like it seems quite effortless for him, and it's like yeah, it's like he can't run out of them, you can't run out of the flow kind of thing, which is very good. So yeah, I like Socks. I've always been a big fan of Socks, so I'm going to put him in S tier. I'm going to put Stormzy in S tier. Stormzy's a bit after my time of Grime. I don't really listen to new Grime like that, but you know, we can't do a Grime list without having Stormzy on it, quite simply because of his influence in the game. He's got big tunes though, a few tunes that I do like Bossy Bop, and there's a couple others like Way Too Big for Your Boots and this and that. But so Stormzy's cold, just a bit after my time for the Grime I listen to. I just listen to old music in general. So yeah, but having said that, you know, as to where he's got and what he's achieved in the game, the level of influence that he's had on the game, and for another thing, he's stayed Grime, because with his trajectory, he could have just branched off into rap and left the Grime scene behind, which is what a lot of people were accused of doing back in the day. Dizzy Rascal's accused of doing that at one point, like going and leaving Grime scene and going into pop. Stormzy never did that. You can tell he loves Grime, so he deserves to be on this list, and he's obviously achieved more than enough to be on this list and to be considered for that. So yeah, I would say Stormzy's up there, and to have like your vest done by Banksy is a madness. So you got to be up there. Temper T, we'll put Timber T. I'm gonna put him in B. Temper T was doing big things at one point. What it is for me is I remember Temper T from Sidewinder days, like the Sidewinder CD packs, where we used to go Eastern Bloc. If you know Eastern Bloc, Rhythm Division, that's in London, but there's always a place called Eastern Bloc in like Piccadilly in Manchester. So this Piccadilly Manchester style, you know, Shen. Where they used to have all the Grime CD packs. This was like in the early 2000s. I was in high school, but like maybe 2002, 2003. I remember him from back then, but obviously it transformed into a next type thing. I wasn't really about that. But like I say, when he used to get on a set back then, he was like a monster on the set. But something changed for me with the next type thing. But yeah, I like Temper T back in the Sidewinder days. So Sidewinder Tape Part days, I put him in B. Vader, I'm gonna have to put him in A. Influential guy from the grime scene. Foundation of a lot of guys. He's like Invasion Alert guys. He brought through, in a way, in a manner of speaking, got a lot of the best grime MCs from a lot of the best, or many of the best, from Birmingham under his banner of Invasion Alert, I believe, and brought them through. He must have had connections in the scene prior to that. I know he's been spitting for a long time, and kind of used some of that influence to help give exposure to guys like Sox, JK, and other guys in Invasion Alert. So anyway, the next three, we're gonna just put them up there straight away. So we've got Wiley, we got Lethal Bizzle, aka Lethal B, and we got Skepta. And for what it's worth, I would kind of actually have the order of S tier, something like this is quite loose really, but the first, I might have it like that. Nah, I'd have it like, I think I'd have it like this, you know. I think I'd have it like that. Just because Asher D's not done much music since So Solid Crew. Lethal B is obviously Lethal B, Rari Workout, Festa Skank, More Fire Crew, Oi. Probably a number of the best, biggest grime tunes of all time. Kano, legend in both music and in acting. Even though this is more about the grime and the music, but that it does count. Wiley, godfather of grime, legendary tunes, influenced virtually everybody on this list and virtually everyone in grime, brought a lot of people through. More people through than anybody, the next being probably Jammer, in terms of how many people they brought through. Dizzy Rascal, the first most prominent grime MC of all time, and then Skepta in the modern day. First of all, the grime MC with the most longevity doing grime, probably the most successful grime artist of all time up to now. When you look at it longitudinally and look at it what he's achieved now and what he was doing then, heaps and heaps of material, big albums, big mixtapes, sick producer, one of the legendary top 5 producers, if you ask me. Sick producer and a good, I imagine a good DJ. I've not really heard his DJ stuff, but I imagine he's good. I think what it is he started off as a DJ for Roll Deep and then started spitting bars, and the rest is history. So next we've got Triller. I'm going to put Triller in A. He's big because I know he did a lot of bassline, but again, he's a very influential guy for the Birmingham scene. I'll put him there. Big Nasty, I'll put Big Nasty in A. Big Nasty could be in S, to be honest, because he's done a lot and he's achieved a lot, especially in the acting as well. Or when I say acting, I mean in the TV space, because his lane isn't, I don't think, acting as much as it is TV presenting and that type of thing. And he's done a lot, and he's a cold MC. Big Nasty clashed Scorcher in. Nah, do you know what? I have to put Big Nasty in S. The Scorcher's in S, I gotta put Big Nasty in S. Simple as. Obese is a bit of a, not many people might know about Obese, but I'll put Obese in B. I think Obese is cold, I think Obese is cold in the same way I think Discard is cold. I think Obese is from the lineage of like Roll Deep and then Trim. And Obese had, I got a new start, new lyric, new conquests. The guy's got cold bars, and he was on that set. That legendary set I'm talking about with Fangol there. That's actually where I found out about Obese. And I think Obese is cold, bro. Can't remember what his mixtape's called. It might just be called Obese. But I like his shtick. His shtick is like, I'm obese, innit? So it's the whole thing's about being obese. It's just, he's cold. He's cold. The only thing is I would want more material. More material than I would probably be putting him in A tier, to be honest. But listen, we got through it. That's the my grime scene tier list, where I ranked 52 of the best known MCs from S tier, which is the top tier, to D tier in terms of category. Now, this is what the list looks like. Have a little look, have a little think, and let me know what your thoughts are. Well, what I'd like you to do is, if you enjoyed this video, give me a like, because obviously that helps, and give me a subscribe even more so. If you like this kind of content, let me know, because let me know. Like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, it helps a lot. And obviously hit the like button if you like this content. We plan to do a lot more of this kind of thing in the future. So without listen, I'll just cut it short here. Unequivocal. Thanks.
Alias.